Paki is not banter. Racism is not banter. I actually got pinned down at my local cricket club, and red wine got poured down my throat.
How old were you?
15. My first day back after losing my son, Martin Moxon literally got me in a room and ripped the shreds off me. I've never seen him speak to anyone like that through my time at the club. Gary Balance walks over and goes, "Why are you talking to him? You know he's a Paki." Or, "He's not a sheikh, he's got no oil." The treatment that I received from some of the club officials was inhuman. First of all, thanks for giving me this opportunity to talk about my story and what I went through over a long period of time at the club. Look, I was a young kid from Pakistan, living in Barnsley, with a dream to represent England. Pretty early on at the club, I joined a dressing room full of my heroes: Michael Vaughan, Matthew Hoggard, part of the 2005 Ashes team, and it was just the most surreal moment for me. I entered that dressing room. Pretty early on, me and other people from Asian background, there was comments such as, "You lot sit over there near the toilets," elephant washers, the word Paki was used constantly, and there just seems to be an acceptance in the institution from the leaders, and no one ever stamped it out. To be honest, all I wanted to do is play cricket and play cricket for England, and live my dream and live my family's dream. In my first spell, I don't really think I quite realised for what it was. I think I was in denial. I looked the other way, just like everyone else did, because really, for me, playing cricket was the most important thing. Towards the end of my first spell, but constantly throughout it, I knew there was something wrong, but I couldn't quite put my finger on what was wrong. I started taking medication for my mental health, and it was tough, really tough. I left the club in 2014. I tried, instead of looking at them things, I went away and tried to work on myself, my game, and my mental health. I felt like I did that, and then I got an opportunity through my performances, being above and beyond everyone else, to get back at the club, and because they struggled to replace me, quite frankly. Adil Rashid had gone to play for England, and they couldn't replace me. The first few months I came back, I thought, you know what, things have changed here. It's a little bit different. Alex Lees was a captain, who was a friend, and he's a good person. And I know he had personal tragedies of himself at a young age, so he understood me. We had Jason Gillespie, who's an Australian cricketer and coach, who I felt supported by. Jason left at the end of 2016, and it just felt, wow, the temperature in the room had just been turned up. You got Andrew Gale coming in as coach, and Gary Balance as captain. And these guys, for me, they were in Yorkshire through and through, and they, as they call it, the White Rose values were embedded in them. For the first time, I started to see for what it was. Felt isolated, humiliated at times, constant use of the word Paki. In 2017 pre-season tour, we were in a place, and Gary Balance walks over and goes, "Why are you talking to him? You know he's a Paki." Or, "He's not a sheikh, he's got no oil." And this happened in front of teammates, it happened in front of coaching staff. We were on a bus trip in London to Surrey game, and we went past a couple of men with beard, and it was like, "Oh, is that your dad? If we go past a corner shop, or does your uncle own this?" And this happened in front of, again, Martin Moxon, Andrew Gale, club officials, and it would never got stamped out. Everyone saw it. But because the institution and the environment, it becomes such a norm in there that I don't think anyone thought there was anything wrong with it. And that's probably why some people don't even remember it. End of 2017, we had a really difficult pregnancy. And through that time, the treatment that I received from some of the club officials was they weren't really bothered about the fact that I was at training one day and I get a phone call to say there's no heartbeat. Sorry.
Take your time, Mr. Rafiq. You wish to break it any moment, please just let me know. There's no hard deadlines today. I mean, I was quite interested by your comment there. I'll probably return a lot more specific. So you said about Mr. Balance. Now, he made great store in his statement where he issued an apology over the fact that you were friends. I think he mentioned as well in the report that you went to have dinner with his family in Harare, I think. And he suggested basically it was sort of a banter angle to the use of the P word. Now, in your second spell at Yorkshire, were you and Mr. Balance friends? And if not, did he use the P word during your second spell?
Yes, 2017 pre-season tour. And throughout, really. It's interesting, and I want to address Gary's statement because there was a narrative there that we were the best of mates. We had a really good relationship. When Gary came to the club from Derby, I saw in him what I saw in myself, and that was outsiders. A lot of the players at the time called Gary a lot of things, which were completely out of order. But again, it was such a norm that no one said anything. Mine and Gary's relationship started to deteriorate around 2013 due to Gary's conduct. It's not, I mean, at one point, his behaviour around his personal relationships was so disgusting that I raised it with an agent that we shared and said this needs to be sorted out before it gets quite silly. And then even after that we were amicable, we were teammates, but we never shared the same relationship. 2017 onwards, initially when Gary took over as captain, he found it a real struggle. Steve Patterson, a senior player, got left out pretty early on, and he got the whole dressing room fighting. It was toxic in a lot of ways. I tried to help Gary and the team, but in the end it became evident that even though Steve had caused a lot of issues, that I was going to be the one that got picked on. 6 or 7 players made a complaint about Tim Breslin that year, but I was the only one that got the repercussions of that, and I was the only person of colour.
There was sorry to quick question, Mr. Rafiq, but there was my reading of your witness statement, also the report more generally, which is quite a difficult read due to the way it's constructed, but my reading of it is that effectively the attitude of Yorkshire changed almost like a light switch going off the moment you made a complaint about racial harassment. Is that correct?
Well, I mean, I first raised it as bullying in 2017. I've seen board minutes now a month before, and it calls me as the leader, potential captain, driver on the field, someone that potentially we should build a team around, especially in white ball cricket. I raised that complaint about Tim Breslin, and Tim, former England cricketer, also related to the coach. I knew there was potentially going to be real trouble, but I thought, I mean, everyone complained, so it would be the same for everyone. But on the flip side of it, the board minutes say I'm a problem, a troublemaker, and an issue that needs to be resolved. And I feel that then blinded them into how they treated me through the pregnancy and the loss of my son. My first day back after losing my son, Martin Moxon literally got me in a room and ripped the shreds off me. I've never seen him speak to anyone like that through my time at the club. And I couldn't believe it. And really, me raising the complaints that I did at the time internally, reporting mechanisms, I raised it with the National Asian Cricket Council, I raised it with the PCA, with my PDM, who I thought, personal development manager,
okay,
who I thought was on my side until I read the internal emails. I raised it with the inclusivity and diversity board member. I went to his house, Hanif Malik, and literally cried my eyes out. And he said to me that he's going to deal with this and he doesn't need the job. 4 days later, I got a message from him that he's going to let Mark Arthur know that I've been, just to be transparent. The subject data access request actually showed that the minute I left his house, he rang Mark and informed him of everything before the meeting I had with Mark the next day. Paki is not banter. Racism is not banter. And for a person of colour, I think there's 3 people of colour on that panel, and one of them, Chief Executive, I think he's associated with National Asian Cricket Council and CEO of London Tigers, an award-winning charity organisation working with rugby and football clubs. For him to come out and do an article where he stands by the finding that Paki was used as banter, it just shows the scale of the problem we have.
There's a report, in the report, there's mentions made of your drinking, that you were a heavy drinker during your time at Yorkshire. What is your view of them linking your claims of harassment to your drinking?
Well, look, I've been clear from the offset. I was imperfect. There's things I did I felt I had to do to fit in and try and achieve my dreams. And I'm not proud of them. It's something I deeply regret. But it has no relation to racism. I should have never, ever been treated the way I got treated. When I spoke, I should have been listened to. But Yorkshire County Cricket Club and the game as a whole really has a problem in listening to the victim. And it's been gaslighting, it's been, but there is no but to racism. There is no 2 sides to a story when it comes to racism.
Were you ever forced to drink alcohol before you were 18 by other people at the club? And how do you view the harassment you suffered for undertaking, answering the call for prayer?
Yeah, look, my first instance of drinking, I actually got pinned down at my local cricket club, and red wine got poured down my throat.
How old were you?
15.
15, you're a Muslim, 15.
15-year-old, I got literally down my throat. The player played for Yorkshire, played for Hampshire, and it was quite an experience. I didn't touch alcohol till about around 2012, and around that time I felt like I had to do that to fit in. Like I said, I regret that massively, but again, it has no bearings on the things that I was called, and really around the loss of my son, the sort of attitude of Andrew Gale, the coach, saying to me that I'm making it more than what it is before the loss. After the loss, hardly ever anyone saying, actually, mate, are you all right? Is your wife all right? It was all about, well, he raised bullying last year. Before he raises something big, let's get rid of him.
And the harassment over the call to prayer as well, that you've seen? Yeah,
look, obviously, myself, I don't remember having that, but I know certain other people. I've seen another player fasting, for example, and if he made a mistake while fasting, from the strength and fitness conditioning coach to the physio to coaches and fellow players would be blaming him for any mistakes he made, as opposed to actually understanding
that's at Yorkshire.
That's at Yorkshire, yeah.
Okay. Tell us about Kevin and Steve, what those names signify in Yorkshire cricket.
Well, look, Steve. Once I left the club, Cheteshwar Pujara joined the club, and Jack Brooks, I think, started it where he didn't feel the need to call him by his first name. There is an interview with Cheteshwar where he said, I'd prefer them not to. But not only did Jack, the coaches, everyone else, the media, Yorkshire Post, the Yorkshire website, the Yorkshire Twitter page, everyone called him that. Commentators around the world, some high-profile people. It just shows, again, back to what the institutional failings and what that environment showed people and how they could behave. So that was a Steve point. Kevin was something Gary used to describe everyone of colour in a very derogatory manner, whether that be publicly, whether that be within the dressing room, whether that be opposition. This is an open secret within the England dressing room. This is anyone that's come across Gary would know that that's a phrase he used to describe people of colour. It was used in a derogatory manner all the time.
So you're saying there that effectively in the England dressing room, they use the name Kevin to signify people of Afro-Caribbean origin. Is that correct?
Anyone of colour.
Anyone of colour.
Anyone of colour.
And is it true that there is an England cricketer as well named as Black Dog Kevin as an in-joke?
Yeah, that is true, because Gary and Alex Hales at the time got really close to each other when they played for England together, and that's my understanding. Obviously, I wasn't present in that dressing room, but that's what I understand, that Alex went on to name his dog Kevin because it was black.
How do you view that?
Well, it's disgusting, to be honest, how much of a joke it was. As I said, till right at the end, I was in complete denial as to what was going on. It was only around back end of 2017, and when I lost my son, I went, you know what, hold on a minute. I've seen other players who have family tragedies and get support beyond measure, and I've just carried my son from the hospital to the graveyard, and how I'm getting treated here is not right. And to me, it became very clear that even myself, that I'd been looking the other way. And there's a real problem here, not just Yorkshire, throughout the country. And I'm going to be the one that's going to speak about this.
Thank you.